thanks for staying with us. So elections took place over the weekend in Bayelsa, Imo, and Kogi. And as it is customary with the show over the years, we'll be reviewing those poll results. Join us to do justice to this is the Group Controller, Current and Public Affairs, TVC Communications, Mr. Babajide Kolade Otitoju. Welcome to the show. Welcome, sir.
Good morning, your view women.
No. Welcome. Good to have you. So, I mean, over the weekend, all eyes was on Bayelsa, Imo, Kogi. Let's start with Imo because obviously PDP and LP have started crying foul that this was totally not the results they were expecting. What are your own general summation on last weekend's elections?
So many things happened during those elections that I wished never happened. We've got to defeat vote buying in our country. What I saw during the last elections point clearly to the fact that the way we are going, vote buying will continue to characterize our elections.
Wow.
In fact, the Nigerian politician has discovered that it is not easy to rig elections like before because of the coming of BVAS. BVAS is a revolutionary tool. When you compare it to the card reader, it has made elections far more difficult to rig. I was telling people that some years back, votes coming from some states used to be in millions. But during the last presidential election, some of the states where we used to receive votes in millions, some winners scored like 250,000 and the rest, yes.
The shock.
Yes. For me, for example, the presidential election result from Borno State was a shock because I expected that it would come in excess of 1 million. But that was not what we saw. So, and I recall speaking to a big politician on the eve of the election, and he thought I had disconnected at my end. And he was warning his foot soldiers that, they are going to use BVAS. We have to be serious. We have to really go to town, get people to come out and vote. We have to work harder. This is BVAS they are going to use. So he was saying those things. And I just listened and listened. My way of doing some journalistic espionage. Let me hear some more heart-shaking remarks.
But to stay on that for a second, before we even continue, a lot of people still say that the last elections were the worst we've had because they feel that that IREF was a major component before even going to last weekend's election. So since you're talking about the fact that many said that BVAS was a major factor in the fact into giving us the realistic numbers that we saw in these past elections, but what would you say to those who are insisting that this was one of the worst elections?
You mean
presidential elections?
Those saying that don't know what they are saying. I've seen elections far worse than that. In fact, the 2007 elections in modern Nigeria, the 2007 presidential election was probably the worst because for that election, ballot materials were not serialized, which means you could take ballot papers from Edo State, you could take it all the way to Kogi and use. And in the history of presidential election litigation, the closest to having the presidential election annulled was in respect of that 2007 election when the judges voted 4-3, the Supreme Court judges. We never had anything close to that. It was a split decision and it was close. 4-3, because the judges felt that, look, where you do not have serialized ballot papers, how do you account for the integrity of that election. But what someone told me initially was that, look, it was even at the last minute that they decided, that some of them decided that, look, we can't set our country back by canceling this election, because in the past, you could spend 3 years on election litigation. Obasanjo won the 2003 election, again another terribly rigged election, where in Ogun State, his home state, the votes recorded by his party exceeded the number of registered voters.
As in,
The Supreme Court said I was in the Supreme Court. Yes, I covered the judgment of the Supreme Court, and I heard what they said. Because during those years, we didn't have elections. They were simply writing.
And it was one of the forces that wanted to set the country on fire this year when the whole... Anyway, let's come back to...
Yeah, let's go back to...
So we had elections in the past where figures were simply written. Nothing like BVAS, nothing like card readers.
Everything was...
We had elections in the early 80s, 1983, when people were beaten up on election day and results were simply written. I can't blame those who were in their diapers in those years.
I don't know.
In saying that, oh, this is the worst election. How many elections have they seen? Did they see wet here, for example?
So, sir, let's go back to Saturday's election. So the PDP and LP are calling for a total poll cancellation after the declaration saying that INEC had likely connived to, upturn the real results. What do you have to say?
That's for Kogi or where?
Yes, for even
No, for Imo.
Imo State.
Oh.
Yeah.
You see, there are certain things that we can't take away from our elections. We have not reached that point when we will have perfect elections. Let's not deceive ourselves. As INEC is trying to reform the process, as INEC is working towards electoral integrity, the Nigerian politician is a terribly devious individual. The Nigerian politician will find a way
Around it.
where the Nigerian politician is clearly the favorite to win an election. He will still look for crooked means that can ensure that
Widen the gap.
that he does not want to take chances. Because he thinks that, look, if he takes it easy, the competition may not take it easy. So despite having a big chance of winning, a very big chance of winning, he will still seek to manipulate the process. And they use INEC staff. Before now, they will bribe INEC staff to sell from EC8A, on which the results are written to them. So this result, when they sell to them, they will bribe INEC staff at the level of collation, and the results will be swapped at the local government collation centers. They were doing this a lot. Now, since it's a lot difficult to do that, because the law, the regulations of INEC now says, okay, from the polling center, you can upload the result.
Yes.
So they bypassed this idea of, okay, we take the result sheets to the collation center, the local government headquarters, where they can swap in transit. They know that that is very difficult to do now. So when they compromise INEC staff, you then find what sort of thing that was going to happen in Ogori Magongo, where result had been pre-written. So if the agents are not vigilant, that pre-written result goes in. But we thank God that there was vigilance, not even vigilance. And those guys said, no, show us result sheets for this election in the blank form. They've grown accustomed to the tricks that they use.
So they know how to...
You know, a situation in which somebody who used to be in the PDP, familiar with the PDP rigging machine, goes into the APC.
Yes, now teaches them what they've been doing.
What they've been doing over the years. When
It
PDP
comes back
was
to
the
PDP
dominant
again.
political party.
Yes.
Today, the APC is the dominant political party.
Yes.
They have their own modus operandi.
All right, let me get a few more
I want
questions for
to,
you.
yes. So, Bayelsa elections, we've not heard the final result
Yes.
because, of course, of the peculiarities of Bayelsa. Let's let our viewers know, some of these peculiarities and why we shouldn't judge it as INEC failing.
I was really worried about Bayelsa election because it was in Bayelsa that I saw boys from the creeks
Yes.
beating a policeman, a very senior, a high-ranking policeman, beating him in broad daylight. That was during the last election, and I was like, look, they've got to deal with these boys. That is an aside. In this election, the highest number of abducted INEC staff happened in Bayelsa. Some are still in captivity as we speak. Because, look, the riverine areas are places where you've got to worry about the fidelity of the votes coming from that end. Because these are very difficult areas to access, even for INEC staff. A lot of manipulations usually take place. So as we speak now, we are waiting for the result from Southern Ijo and what's the other one? I think Brass.
Yes.
Huh?
Yes.
Yes, because 6 local governments have been released now, and the governor has won 5. Silver won 1. I think Nembe.
Nimbe, yes.
Silver is from Brass. The governor has a fairly comfortable lead. It's a small state, just 8 local governments. And the population is really small. So with such a lead from the governor, it looks extremely difficult for Silva. It looks extremely difficult. This election, and you see protests from both sides. If this one organizes women to protest, the other one too will get his own women to protest. So they are trying to impress us, but we know the game. It's difficult to have free and fair elections in Bayelsa State. Sometimes you see they pump soldiers onto our streets. But the question is, whose bidding are those soldiers doing? I've seen where soldiers deliberately, they were told, look, this cosmopolitan part of the state, this is the party that is strongest. Suppress the votes from that end. And how do soldiers help politicians to suppress votes? They create multiple checkpoints along the road leading to polling centers. And some people will be willfully turned back.
Okay.
So if the votes are not impressive from that end, it puts the opponent at an advantage.
Yes. All right, we have to go on a break. When we come back, there's still more to talk about participation. Kogi election is another interesting part of this conversation. Stay with us. We'll be right back.